I recently read the book True and False by David Mamet, and I'm going to share with you my 12 biggest takeaways from this book as an actor. So while reading this book, I put all these little circle stickers in there to remind me which parts really stuck with me, and which parts I want to share with you. So, I really wanted to start this video by saying, like, I read this book so you don't have to, but the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I actually do recommend reading it, because I think it's one of those books that really changes your perspective on a career as an actor and the industry. And I'm not saying you have to agree with everything he says in this book. I don't think I agree with everything he says in this book, but it does really open up your mind to more. So let's just get into it. I'll start right here. And this first takeaway I got from the book, I think it's something that is taught in acting all the time, but I think this was the first time that it really stuck with me, or at least that I actually understood what was meant by it. Okay, so I'll just read a little bit of what he wrote and then we'll talk about it. In real life, the mother begging for her child's life, the criminal begging for a pardon, and the atoning lover pleading for one last chance, these people give no attention whatever to their own state, and all attention to the state of the person from whom they require their object. This outward directedness brings the actor in real life to a state of magnificent responsiveness and makes his progress thrilling to watch. So he's really talking about that outward directedness that makes your acting look real. And I think that is something that, as a beginner actor, but also just as an actor in general, that's something that's pretty hard, because for me at least, for the longest time, I always was focusing so much on what I wanted myself to look like while doing a scene. So for example, in self-tapes, I would always be like, okay, so on that line I'm gonna squint my eyes a little bit, or I'm gonna look really hurt on that line. But yes, you'll get what you want to see, but it won't be real, you know what I mean? So what he's talking about is really that your attention should be with the other person, not with yourself, not with what you look like, but with the other person. How are they responding? How are they taking what you're saying? And what is it that you want from them, right? Because the goal of your character should be your own goal as well. So if your character in a scene wants the other person to apologize, for example, that should be your goal as well. You should not leave the stage or not leave the scene before you get that apology, and you have to do that with the lines you are given. And I think that was a really big eye-opener for me, because when you're really focusing on yourself, you kind of pull yourself out of it, you know? I think every actor will know the feeling of pulling yourself out of a scene and looking with this kind of like third eye view down at yourself, and that just doesn't help you in a scene. So I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from this book, honestly. And he says so much more about this in so many different ways throughout the book, and I think that's what really made me understand what was meant by it. By the way, if you do want to get this book for yourself, I've linked it in the bio, and I'm also writing a blog post about it. So if you just want to slowly scroll through everything I said today, you can read it on there, and there's also a link to the book. And then if you do get the book, or if you have the book, this is page 12 and 13 we're on right now if you want to read with me. So yeah, that was my first takeaway. And then I'm gonna go on to the second one. And this one, by the way, it's page 18. This was just, I just really liked how he worded this. So I'm just gonna read it to you. It is not childish to live with uncertainty, to devote oneself to a craft rather than a career, to an idea rather than an institution. It's courageous and requires a courage of the order that the institutionally co-opted are ill-equipped to perceive. Period. Period. He spoke, he wrote, he did that. You know, I think what I really liked about this is the one little sentence he wrote, to devote oneself to a craft rather than a career. I don't know, it just sounds poetic and I liked it, so that's why I wanted to put it in here. And also just because, you know, as an actor, or really anyone in a creative career, we're often told all those things, you know, that it's not financially stable, it's not future proof or whatever. I just like that he touched on that subject and said, like, it's not childish to live with uncertainty. And it's actually really courageous. And it's actually a beautiful thing. So yeah, I really wanted to put that in there and just as a little reminder. Okay, we're on to page 32. I'm just gonna take a sip of my coffee. That's really good. Look how cute that is. This little bit is something that really opened my eyes as well. So again, I'm gonna read it to you and we'll talk about it. We are, of course, trained in our culture to hold our tongue and control our emotions and to behave in a reasonable manner. So to act, one has to unlearn these habits, to train oneself to speak out, to respond quickly, to act forcefully, irrespective of what one feels, and in so doing to create the habit of not understanding, not attributing the moment, but of giving up control, and in so doing, giving oneself up to the play. And then a few sentences later, he also writes, in life, there is no emotional preparation for loss, grief, surprise, betrayal, discovery, and there is none on stage either. Forget the funny voices, pick up your cue, and speak out even though frightened. I like that. So he's really saying that on stage or in a scene, you should really react. Shouldn't give yourself time to prepare for what you're gonna do, prepare for what you're gonna say. You should just, as he said, pick up your cue and speak out. The part that he says about speak out even though frightened, that's something that comes back throughout the book as well a few times. And it's also something that actually connects my fourth takeaway really well. So we're gonna go straight into that one. So I'll read it again. It's page 39 if you want to read it with me. He writes, the ideas, organizations, actions, and people you support and dedicate yourself to mold and finally are your character. Any other definition is the jabbering of the uncommitted. Certainly the weak would like you to believe that a character is a costume which can be put on or taken off at will. And from time to time we'd all like to believe it, but that doesn't make it true. Everything you know and everything you are is in your character because you are playing that character. It isn't just a costume that you can put on and go on stage, do your thing, take it off, and you're a different person again. It's you that forms your character, or you that is your character. I think this is kind of the part where I was like, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with everything he says. I think this is a little bit up for discussion because I do get to a certain point what he means by it, but I'll just let you think for yourself, and if you want to share what you think about it in the comments, then I'm really curious to hear it, so do that. We're gonna go on to the fifth takeaway, or is it even, I'm not even counting, I'm just saying numbers. But we're on page 51 now, and I'm gonna read it to you. Okay, this is just a short one. You are not one of the myriad of interchangeable pieces, but a unique human being. And if you've got something to say, say it, and think well of yourself while you're learning to say it better. I don't know, I just thought it was really nice. So yeah, we're just not gonna linger too long on that. We're gonna go on to the next takeaway. On page 57, he says, historically, the artist has been feared because his or her job has nothing to do with hard work. There's nothing you or I could do to enable us to paint like Caravaggio or to skate like Wayne Gretzky. We could work all day, every day for millennia, and we would never achieve that goal. I just really like this outlook on art. An artist isn't just an artist because he worked really hard and he spent a lot of hours on something. It's because he brings something unique that can't be learned. So yeah, I just thought that was really inspiring. And we're gonna continue on to our next takeaway. Okay, so here he talks about the rehearsal process, and he's very clear about what he thinks should happen in a rehearsal process, because he thinks that actors shouldn't be trying to understand the writer and understand the character, but they really should only learn their lines. And well, I'm gonna read it to you. He says, what should happen in the rehearsal process? 2 things. 1, The play should be blocked. 2, the actors should become acquainted with the actions they're going to perform. So he says, the only thing that you should know before starting a play is what you're gonna say, where you're gonna stand saying it, and if there's an action you're going to perform, like pouring tea or doing a backflip or I don't know, that you should obviously become acquainted with that action. So that's what he says about the rehearsal process. And again, I also really want to know if you agree with him or if you think that he might be wrong. Because if that is the case, then I would love to hear it too. I'm on page 98 for the next one. He writes, I don't know what talent is, and frankly I don't care. I do not think it's the actor's job to be interesting. I think that it's the job of the script. I think it's the actor's job to be truthful and brave. Both qualities which can be developed and exercised through the will. I don't know, I just, this was so like refreshing to hear, because he says it's not your job to be interesting, the script has to be interesting, and he keeps saying throughout the book a few times like the script is either interesting or it's not. And if it's not, you're fucked as an actor anyways, because you can't make it interesting. And if it is, then good for you. And then it's your job to just be truthful and brave. And I also really like that he says that like both these qualities can be developed and exercised through the will. He's saying you can learn to be an actor if you understand what it means to be an actor. So yeah. Next is page 102. This was about focusing on the things that you actually can change in your life and just letting go of the things you can't, because it's not going to help you to think about it if you can't change it anyways. He writes, cultivate the habit of only having aversion for those things you can avoid, those things in yourself, and only desiring those things that you can give yourself, improve yourself. Right. Because if you're going to hate things that you can't change anyways, that's only going to make your life harder. Yeah. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but it's good to hear it every once in a while, I think. Alright, on to page 111. He writes, to face the world is brave. To turn outward rather than inward and face the world which you would have to face in any case. Such may not always win the day, but it will always allow you to live the day as an adult. Yeah, so I guess this kind of circles back to the whole outward directedness thing from the first one. Next. Alright, next one is page 114. He writes, the audience will accept everything they're not given a reason to disbelieve. And that sentence alone is really valuable, I think. Yeah, the audience is sitting there and they're going to believe everything they're told unless they're given a reason not to believe it. And he gives an example as well. He says, here's what I mean. A young woman across the room at a party is pointed out to us as being worth 500 million. We now begin to look at her a little differently. Oh, we think, this is how the rich act. This is how they drink their tea or light their cigarettes. Aha! How odd, in many ways just like you and me. The young woman has done nothing. A characteristic was not ascribed to her and we accepted it. Why should we not? We will continue to accept it until we are given a reason to disbelieve. The work of characterization has or has not been done by the author. It's not your job and it's not your lookout. You don't have to portray the hero or the villain. That's been done for you by the script. So as I said, he does go back to say that the script should be, the foundation should be strong enough as it is, and that it's your job to just play the characters, say the lines as they are on the paper, and that should make your character. Alright, we're already to our last one, number 12, so I'm just gonna take a sip of coffee. Oh, this one I really liked. So here he writes, you can show the audience some heroism. That's why they came to the theater. They didn't come to see your technique, whatever that may be. You are going to bring your unpreparedness, your insecurities, your insufficiency to the stage whatever you do. When you step on stage, they come with you. Go on stage and act in spite of them. Nothing you do can conceal them, nor should they be concealed. And when you go on stage determined to act, that is to get what you came for and not be denied, you can come off stage at peace. So he's saying, take everything you are and go on stage and be unapologetically yourself. And that's honestly one of my favorite quotes. So I think that's just a perfect way to end this video. So again, if you do decide you want to buy this book too, because obviously everything I said has context that maybe make it more understandable, I've linked it in the bio. I'm gonna link my blog post to it, which has a lot of tips on acting and books. So perfect, best of both worlds, right? And if you want to see more content like this, please don't forget to subscribe. And then I'll see you very soon.